Welcome, everybody. My name is Josh Denne. I have the honor and the privilege of hosting purposes of being able to update everyone in the field with what's happening now. We're moving at breakneck speed, and we're in a very unique moment in time because we're not even pre-launch, we're pre that. So you're looking at something in the earliest of possible days as we put this together. And as a result, the opportunity will never be better. My mentor, actually Mr. Ben Kane, who is on this Zoom here, used to teach me. He said, opportunity lives where the challenges are. If you want to earn big money, if you want to be successful in life, learn to solve big problems, because the bigger the problem that you can solve, the more opportunity is, and the more income there is. The biggest earners are the biggest problem solvers. And so we believe we're solving a massive challenge in the marketplace today. We'll go into that in a little bit, but I've never felt more passionate and more excited about anything in my life, because not only do we have this special timing in the marketplace in general, with the changing of technology, and you got the biggest shift of wealth in humanity that we're aware of is occurring right now. And we have an opportunity, a vehicle that can help you understand it and position yourself to benefit from this change, at the same time helping other people to do the same. I feel privileged to be a part of this, and my partner, and I know I don't want to embarrass him, but real quickly, Chris, just so for the people who don't know you, I've had the honor of knowing you for the last 20 years. We met when we were kids, and to watch the tremendous leader that you've become over the years, and just the dedication to excellence, to understanding technology, entrepreneurship, has been remarkable. And over the last 10 years, you and I have become really good friends. And I can tell you, for those who know me, that I collect good people. That's kind of my thing. I pride myself on the relationships I've been fortunate enough to cultivate. And Chris, amongst all the people I've met, is by far one of the very best people because of his integrity. This is a man who does what he says he's going to do. And I've watched him over the years, to great sacrifice to himself, do the right thing for the people that he's in business with. And if it means him not getting paid, if it means him having a personal challenge. Chris, I watched you weather those storms. I watched you take the high road when many people wouldn't have. And, your commitment to understanding where we are from a technology standpoint and understanding blockchain, as very few people do, is the reason why I know you've been asked for the second year in a row to speak at the US Capitol building and teach people about money governance as it pertains to the law, why, you understand the legislation, and why your commitment to making certain that SDK Meta is on solid ground, that the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, and we're doing everything properly, is obviously something I respect and I admire and I'm grateful for, because we're not building something on sand, we're building on bedrock. And Chris, you're by far one of the best operators I've met, co-author of Digital Sense, and a phenomenal read, and really a prediction of where we are and where we're going. And so I will just let you know, my friends, that Chris, not only all the business accolades, he's one of my closest friends. And Chris, I feel honored to be in business with you. And if you would, sir, take us through a little bit of the opportunity now for the guests that are here, and then let's get into some of the updates, and then I'll take it from there. So guys, our co-founder, CEO, Mr. Chris Snook.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. I really appreciate it, because whether it's you're trading time, which you'll never get back, as we all are, for something, for opportunity. One of my mentors years ago told me that sacrifice is not giving up something you want. It's taking something of lesser value and trading it for something of higher value. So with that in mind, I'm honored to be here, speak with many of you who I know and who have been with us in the early days of alpha during the pre-enrollment phase, and are getting ready for basically full alpha once we go live at the end of the month here with revenues, and you start to accrue and build your checks. And then for those of you who are new, thank you. I do know Ben Kane. I don't know him nearly as well as Josh, but I've had the pleasure of hearing him a couple different times. So it's good to see some old faces and new names, and some people that I respect. One of the things that I remember that I heard him say once is the joy is in the doing. And I think that that's probably one of the most true statements. There's a handful of things that have happened to me over the years where I've heard things and I went, man, that really makes sense. One time somebody told me, everything is to your advantage. And I thought about that for a minute and I went, well, how could that be, right? When this happens or that happens or some challenge occurs, like, how could that be? But I thought about it for a minute and I went, that's really insightful, because if you take the approach of everything's to my advantage, it doesn't really matter what happens. It's a way and it's a perspective of looking at the thing. The joy is in the doing is another one that always stuck with me. So thanks for that, Ben. Good to see your face here and your presence here, and I'm not singling you out, just something I think is apropos to the message I would start out with today. So with all that in mind, we live in very interesting times. And I've been an entrepreneur, whether I wanted to be or not, for 22 years. And I say that because, I think what we've done over the last 10 to 15 years, especially, is we've kind of glamorized entrepreneurship. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, the reality is that it's a way of life. And there's different kinds of entrepreneurs. There's, operator entrepreneurs, there's solopreneurs, there's innovators. But, the reality is that there's nothing really special or different about it. It's just kind of certain people are built certain ways. And you all are here and you're looking at this because essentially you're entrepreneurial or you have entrepreneurial tendencies. And our job is to provide a solution to a problem that is big enough for you to participate in, and that is meaningful enough for you to get excited about, take your attentions off of something else, and ultimately that works. And some of the challenges that we face right now is in society. We're living in a time where we're exponentially getting complexity at levels that we cannot even compute. And it doesn't matter how smart you and I are. There are limits to how our evolutionary biological brain evolves. And those limits are real. And we live in a time where now, coming into 2021, as much as we've been hearing about things for 40 years, maybe, from artificial intelligence to singularities to you name it, pervasive computing, that we've ignored it because we lumped it all in with those things like, oh, by 2000, there'll be flying cars. And since we didn't get them, we went, oh, those are wrong. Those predictions are wrong. And that is our linear kind of biological brain trying to make sense of a world that is exponential. And when you have exponential, you can take a penny and double it every 30 days, and it's worth 5 times more than $1 million given to you today, right? And when you start to do that math in your head, it doesn't really seem to add up, because in the first 15 days, you're still under $10. But on the 28th day, you go from about 844,000 to about 1.6 million. And then all of a sudden it doubles. And where we're at in society and humanity is 100 years ago, we came out of the last 100-year cycle. If you've ever read books like Fourth Turning or Rebecca Costa's The Watch and Rattle, you kind of talk about these things, but the Fourth Turning studies these cycles, and we go through them every 80 to 100 years, and they've been happening since we've existed. But the easiest way to explain it is, in the first 50 years of a new cycle, there are new institutions built up, typically over the first 25. And then those institutions kind of change the status quo. They change the way things operate and are done at a global scale, however big the globe is. And then at the kind of the 25 to 50 year mark, what happens is those things become the norm and they benefit. They change everything. There's usually a moment of mass prosperity and a fundamental shift. And then from 50 to 75, they start to, like everything, break down or slow down, and they get top heavy. And that's called the unraveling. And then within 25 to 100 years, at the end of that cycle, they start to be torn down, break down, crumble, or fall under their own weight. And as that's happening, people are born. And as that's happening, people are living and operating and dying, and decisions are being made. And when you get to that last 25-year clip, which is called the crisis period, it's not one single storm. Think of it like winter. It's not like a snowstorm. It's like a period of time where snowstorms can happen. And some winters are worse than others, or some winters are better than others, but it's still winter and it's predictable. Well, we're in that cycle right now. And right around 05, we entered
2005, we entered the kind of winter period, the crisis period of this last 100-year cycle. So what does that all mean? Well, the evidence of that is that you see institutions that have served us well in the past for certain things no longer being trusted, maybe not functioning as well, maybe being corrupted, maybe being less efficient, maybe being less fair. And wherever you're at in the world, whether you're in Australia, whether you're in Asia, whether you're in, America, whether it doesn't matter, we're able to look and find evidence for these things, right? So this is the macro context. And why I think it's important is that that's existing whether we are in business as entrepreneurs or not, whether SDK has a company or not, whether SDK Meta puts its business model peer-to-peer to market or not with people like you. That's just where we live. And we are in the back end of that 25-year period where essentially everything that was is being torn down, crumbling, or falling down. And what's happened in that same kind of 25 years is the new institutions, the new infrastructures, if you will, that'll operate society are being started to build, but they're not noticeable because they're not mass. So Satoshi's white paper in 08, as an example, starts to build a potential infrastructure for a new monetary system, but it doesn't replace anything. And who knows if it ever will, but what happens is it starts to cascade these new foundational technologies, new foundational systems. And that's really what they are, is systems. So institutions are nothing more than galvanized systems, right? And where we've been for the last 10 to 15 years is we've been in kind of this normal process of degrading, and we've been building up these new potential upticks. But where we live right now in 2021, moving to 2030, is kind of that last decade where the cement has been poured on what's possible, but it is not yet dry. It's still wet, which you'll hear us say a lot at SDK. And so the opportunity to shape it, put our imprints in it, or be part of what is going to essentially run the next 100 years is now. And you could say, well, wow, that's way bigger or heavier than I thought. But I think it's important macro context to understand how to evaluate the opportunity in front of you. Because whether you and I do anything or not, that's going to happen. So you don't have to wonder about or even understand how it works. You just have to know that's the wave and you're in front of it or you're on top of it. You have a chance to fall behind it, but you're awake, you're aware. So you don't really have to worry about that. You just have to understand that we can operate and we can think about, and technology companies, we do this a lot, right? We operate from the future. We think about the future all the time, but none of us can actually execute anything but in the present. And we can look at the past, and the past can be a good indicator, but if we live in the past, again, we can only execute in the present. So we're either operating from the future, executing in the present, or we're operating from the past, executing in the present. So our past is not irrelevant, but it also doesn't matter. And at the same time, it's a good pattern recognition. But if our current results aren't what we want for our future results, we have to be aware of the fact that all we know is how to operate from the past, because operating from the future, we haven't shown that we can do something different yet. So if we can identify a trend, if we can identify a macro force, so we can, when we understand the force, right, the macro forces, we can assess where we're standing. And we can say, is this going to be a headwind, or something that could knock us over? Is it coming from the side? Or is this a tailwind? And if it's a tailwind, am I on the right vector? Am I heading, is my business, is my marketing, however you think of yourselves, is my product suite aligned with the direction that wind is blowing? Because if it is, then I don't have to be that great. I just have to not trip. You don't have to be the fastest runner to win a race if you've got the wind at your back and everyone else is taking on a headwind. You just can't fall down. And so when you think about things like the Meta Zero, a new operating system that puts you, your users, your customers in dominion over their data, meaning they're in the proxy of how and where and when that data is encrypted or decrypted, within whatever letter of the law exists, because there's going to be constraints and other forces that no matter what we do, you're not going to be able to control. However, the choice to have optionality, true optionality in a world where the illusion of choice is all we have left, and where that macro force of the cement having been poured by the Googles and the Apples and the whatevers of the world, and very successful companies, very tremendous revenue generators, very tremendous shareholder value increasers, but they've done that on the backs of the user's data. They don't really have an incentive to kind of change their business model. Now, we could say maybe they'll do it altruistically or by force, but there's no real incentive. And the inertia is so big because most people are not yet awake. The inertia is so big, it really doesn't matter if 1 or 2% of people don't like it, because 98% of the people are feeding it. So if that's happening, that's a headwind of its own for trying to win in that business model. But if that business model is part of the last 100 years, and it was part of the cement being poured on what could be possible for the next 100 years, meaning a data economy, well, then you can just go, well, wait, if the data economy is now proven, that's the new oil, AI is the new electricity, and Internet of Things, connected devices, connected everything is the new nervous system. It's the new ecosystem that we live in, an ecology of information, if you will. Well, then what are the opportunities to ride that wave, but do it in a way that's more equitable? Because at some point, humanity has always found a way forward. Now, that may not continue to be true. There's always the risk at the end of every 100-year cycle that we screw it up. And usually what it means is there's a fundamental paradigm shift amongst a global set of people from multiple demographics, multiple generations, that have to agree on a way forward. And there's some level of consensus, either by force or by agreement or by treaty, that moves us out of the crisis and into the next high, which is that 25-year new systems at scale. And we will hit that somewhere before 2030, statistically. Like, we know this. Neil Howe, William Strauss, who's no longer here, but they did research back to the 1500s. This is not in question. This is just predictable. So whether we get it right this time or not, or how right we get it, is kind of up to us on an individual level and then at scale. So what we exist for as a community is to try and get it right. Because whether we're successful at the level we want to be or not together, one thing you will know is that the joy in the doing of it will let you sleep at night, or let you leave this earth knowing that you had no regrets, that you put it out there, that you were one of the few that mattered. You were the vital few that shaped the masses and their experience moving forward. And you had something to do with it. And by the way, you made money while you were doing it. And you did something that was with the wind at your back, that was a macro trend that was happening with or without you, that you could be either watching happen, get run over while it happens, or be part of benefiting while it happens and make it happen better. And that's what you're looking at. So we can talk about products like the phone and the hardware and the software. You can get a lot of information on the videos we did about that. We can talk about the MetaPass and access and proximity to upgrade you and your people's knowledge faster while getting commissions and rewards through our revenue reward program for bringing people to the party, and then getting access to exclusive drops and things that are the future, that are new ways to monetize content and culture and democratize access to that around the world, while providing the end user choice in how they participate, while providing the end user participation in the value equation that happens when those things are bought and sold in a marketplace. Because that's what we've done. We've built a program where, regardless of what brings the customer into your organization, whether it's a hardware device or whether it's a digital asset or whether it becomes both, over time, that customer relationship is yours. It's coded to you. The customer acquisition is coded to you. And you and your team benefit from the remuneration through the revenue rewards program, on the commission trees, on the levels, as also through the bonus pools, depending on how much volume you generate. And it's simple. What do you got to do to be qualified? Pay an annual $99 admin fee. There's no hoops. There's none of that stuff, none of weird stuff. That's what you have to do to stay qualified, is be an active, decentralized marketing participant. And you don't have to choose that, but it's available for those who want to build a business without having to be the fastest runner and benefit and look like Usain Bolt. Because this is happening. And all you got to do is turn on your feed, which I encourage you not to do, and look at the news stories. Every single day, something else happens. This hack, that hack. Facebook goes down. Instagram goes down. Is it a scam? Is it this? Gmail now requiring you, when you log in, to give them your birthday. You used to be able to skip it. Now it's saying, because we want to serve you more relevant ads. You don't even have a choice. Every single day, your GPS fills in the address before you've even gone there. And you didn't ever been there before, but you were talking about it in the house before you walked out to your car. And your car is connected to your phone. And now your phone, who was listening to you, populates the address before as a convenience. You've had these experiences, right? And what you're looking at there is the cement has been poured on the data economy, and it's owned by a handful of companies, and the users have no say. They have no choice. And SDK, we build technologies that enable choice, that power personal choice. before it's too late. Because once this is dry, ladies and gentlemen, and this is not the fear monger, this is just factual looking at the trend line. We will not have choice. Right now, we have the illusion of it because specifically the most pervasive piece of computing that you have is a smartphone, and every single one of you will not leave home without it. And if you do, you'll go back and get it. And we've all done that. I've even left my wallet at home, but not left my phone at home. And if that's the case, when we walk in, do we really have choice? We build an Apple device or we bring home an Android or a Samsung device? We don't really have choice because both of them require us to opt into one of two systems, Google's or Apple's. And when we do that, we've given our proxy over all of our value to them. It'd be the equivalent of going to BP, knowing you have an ocean of oil under your house and saying, here's the keys to my house, please start drilling and I don't need anything from you. Like, that's what we've done over the last 10 years, unbeknownst to us. We have paid to put oil wells in every aspect of our life, except these oil wells are far richer. They're the semantic data, the voice data, the tone, they're the heat, the temperature, the kinesthetic data. They're us. They're our identity. And those values are worth trillions of dollars a year. And yet we have more people living below $2 a day than there are people living a living wage. There's 4 billion people still undocumented and unconnected in a 7.8 billion person planet. How's that possible? There's 25 Americans that own $2.1 trillion worth of wealth, which is the equivalent of the bottom 154 million Americans. Now, I'm not here saying people should not get wealthy. You should be wealthy. I want to be wealthy. Everyone here deserves to be wealthy. But there's something fundamentally broken when that's the data. And especially when you consider that every single one of us, there's less people than there are smartphones on the planet. So if there's less people than there are smartphones on the planet, and there's 25 billion connected devices on the planet, and there's only 7.8 billion, and that number is going to go to 1 trillion by 2027. There's going to be 1 trillion connected devices learning from us, learning from each other. We should not have any problem with people earning a living wage because the data economy is being fed by people. It's not being fed by machines. So all we're talking about here is the chance to put yourself in a business where you can help get people into the data economy in a way where they are in control of their choices, more so than they are today, on an operating system that respects their value instead of strip mines them from it, and provides them chances to be more efficient with the bands they want to support, with the fans they want to support, with the brands they want to support, and be part of the value equation every time someone in that network effect does something that creates revenue. So on Saturday, there's a lot we could talk about. And I'm here to try and just inspire you to the fact that regardless of you know exactly how we go to business, that's the easy stuff. We got plenty of videos, plenty of stuff. Thursday, there's 4 webinars a day. Friday, we recorded something yesterday. I encourage you to watch it. You'll get all the tactics on where things are going. But why are we here? Why are you here? The past is no longer relevant. It's an indicator of where you're going in the future and nothing more. The future is where you need to operate from, but we have to execute in the now. And this is now. So take the step you can take today to put yourself in front of the biggest wave in the history of humanity. And that is not an understatement. 100 years ago, when we made the turn and Japan agreed to surrender, which was not in their paradigm, they had never surrendered. They would blow themselves up rather than surrender. But we got to a point where we, supposedly the West, the Americans, we were the good guys. We were going to liberate people from tyranny and fascism and all this stuff. And we did that. But then we blew up 13 million people on 2 bombs, and we were about to drop a third. And we had to get to a point where we had to recognize that we were about to take a step that was irrefutable or irrevocable. And they were about to take a step if they didn't surrender that was. And we got to a new paradigm. Had they not done that, who knows what would have happened. But it took people changing who they were and being willing to stop doing what they had been doing to start a new paradigm. We went to a massive amount of boom, the baby boom era. We rebuilt the whole world. And the US benefited most from that. Whether we do or not, this time's not the point. Somebody will. But now you have data and connectivity and communications at a level that are unprecedented. Now you have 7.8 billion people, not 1.7 billion. Now you have 65% of them living in cities, not 5% living in cities. Now you have draconian surveillance systems that could be deployed properly, but also could be deployed very nefariously. And there's not a damn thing you and I can do about it. There's not a place you and I can go without facial recognition cameras. There is more footprint for bad things to happen than there are good things to happen. The stakes have never been higher, ever, in the history of humanity. And we could sit there and we could say, well, you know, thank God I'm going to be dead soon. But that's not why you're an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs can't do that. We can't look at a situation that is flawed and then go do something else and make money and buy shit. We can't do that. We could try, we could pretend, but we'll be miserable. And when we die, we'll die with regret. Whether we're successful together or not, ladies and gentlemen, I will not die with regret. You have that on my breath. I promise you that. So whatever challenges lay ahead, today, tomorrow, the next day, we will tackle them. We will face them. We will be there. Hopefully you'll be there with us. Whether you are or not, we will be there. Because we've made the decision, this founding team and its executives that have signed up for this mission, we've made the decision that we can't live with regret. And we've made the decision that there's still time to try to do something about it. And we're super excited about those products. We're super excited about that community. And we believe we actually can make a difference. And that's what gets us out of bed every morning, whether it's Saturday, Sunday, or whether our families are taking one on the chin that day or not. That's why we're here. And if you want to be part of that, what are you waiting for? If you got people that should be part of that, again, what the hell are you waiting for? Because the future's coming doubly, whether we do anything about it or not. And if you don't want to be a house pet, this is our last chance for choice. That's all I got, Josh.
I don't think it's lost on anyone right now, especially at this moment. I think what would be important for everyone here, we've got a full presentation that will take you through everything on whoever invited you to take a look at this. They have a link that's going to go to a page. They'll kind of explain everything. It gives access to the technical data sheets and everything, but there's a video that's housed within that site that goes through details, the slides, kind of what the services actually are, how they're solving that challenge, and then the rewards that's being shared as a result. I feel very proud about what we're doing because we're sharing the lion's share with those that help build it. So it's the right thing to do in a peer-to-peer economy, which is what the blockchain is all about. Web3 is all about shared economies and actually pushing the amount of what is shared to the people that are doing the work. So all of us that are providing the network, that are contributing, are going to get we're going to get compensated in direct proportion to the contribution that we bring, which is where it's all moving. So the ability for you to have a vehicle where you can literally generate compensation from anywhere in the world, right? By doing something that is important, by doing something that's adding real value and that's relevant today, in today's marketplace, with privacy, with security, with choice. And you have that ability not only to, make some part-time or spare time or sometime income, but significant income, especially because of timing. Chris, I read, when I read Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, it really put things in perspective, because if you're like me, I was always wondering how do you become successful? How do you become wealthy? It was hard for me to comprehend back when I was looking at entrepreneurship and this profession for the first time. I was, I didn't graduate high school. A lot of you know my story. I made a lot of mistakes when I was younger, and I thought at that time, man, I screwed up, but it's over. What am I going to be able to do? I messed my life up. And then I got involved in this profession where I met people like Angel, like John, like Ben Kane, who's here, that changed my life, who said your past doesn't have to equal your future. That if you're willing to work hard and you have a burning desire and you're willing to learn, you can, and you apply that at the right time in the right way, with the right vehicle, everything can change for you. And it did. And, it wasn't, another thing Ben said to me, Chris, is it's not what you get that's important. It's who you become in the process. Like that, what you'll become here is better than what you'll get here, because you're going to get on a path of education that's going to help you really understand the truth of where we are and what's happening around us. And, I think we're at a point now that we realize how important that is, that ignorance is not bliss, that we must understand what's happening so we can, number one, act appropriately, prepare our families appropriately, but also to become self-sufficient. Because I think what's important now for everyone is we've got a roadmap, we've got some very unique relationships that are going to set this apart. Because the question I ask is, well, what are you doing that's so different, and why do you believe that you're going to be able to offer? Let's talk about NFTs. It's the hottest thing in the marketplace that everyone's talking about. Very few people know what it is, and I think, like a lot of people, we don't want to admit that. Like, people don't want to admit, I don't know what blockchain is. I don't know what an NFT is. And although it's hot, but it's relevant because it's where we're going. Could you maybe talk about that a little bit with people?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think, again, I like to try and use things that maybe we didn't think about, but that we understand. So, I'll say it this way: an NFT, a non-fungible token, let's start with a token. Tokens are containers, right? They contain something. So in a digital world, a token contains a representation of something that's valuable, that is the location of that thing. An example is, a credit card number. A credit card number actually is a form of tokenization. It's not your social security number. It's not who you are, but it's your credit card number. It identifies that your credit worthiness is there or not. A transaction can go through. And the reason why we tokenized that in the 90s was because it enabled people to lose a card, for instance, but not have to start over. So there's different forms of tokenization that have been in existence forever, but blockchain is a tamper-evident storage medium. It's a ledger balance, if you will, and it allows for debits, credits, and tokens to be stored, a transaction on it, the history of a debit, a credit, or a token, a container on a blockchain. Now, what's in that container could be any number of things. It could be a security. It could be the representation of a right to access. It could be a piece of art. It could be any number of things, right? You can tokenize anything. It could be intellectual property. It could be a person's identity. So what shipping containers did for the modern world, most of us have seen on the side of a road or in pictures or whatever, what a shipping container is. They're 9x45 or 9x20. There's two standard sizes, 9x20s being the most standard size. What that did for the world of global commerce, several decades ago, was it absolutely expanded it. Because prior to that, whenever you ship something, you had to put it in bags, or you drove it on the boat and had to be unloaded by hand, and the boats would only hold however much. You've done this even in your own life with, like, you can fit so much in your trunk if you put it in loose, but if you put it in boxes and the trunk is a certain size, you can kind of get more stuff in. Similarly, well, what shipping containers did for the world is they absolutely exponentially increased GDP. They created and enabled the global economy. Right now, today, there's over 20 million containers floating around in the ocean, heading back and forth between our continents. That's a fact. That's how many are floating right now anywhere in a 24/7 day. And when that freezes up, we get things like, oh, your carpet that you want is not available for 12 weeks, or the used car you want to buy is $10,000 more because there's not enough supply chain in your market, right? So we feel these impacts today because of post-COVID, where that froze up for a minute. We feel these impacts working out. So that's how meaningful shipping containers were. Well, what NFTs represent is the containerization, and that's a new word I just made up, but the containerization of everything, whether it's physical, whether it's digital, or whether it's a hybrid of both. So when you want to understand what's the real value of an NFT, it's, imagine if you could put a container around everything, from the physical thing itself or the representation of it to the rules of how you could interact with that or certify that in a digital world. And so the current state of them, because of the current state of the infrastructure and the technologies, has been use cases like JPEGs or pieces of art or things like that. And this year, literally so far, there's been $10.7 billion worth of secondary market trading in NFTs as of an article I read yesterday. Last year, it was a $119 million industry. So think about, and by the way, if you're wondering whether it's a hype cycle or not, it's a hype cycle, but don't get it twisted. $10.7 billion of a hype cycle is just indicating the $1 trillion economy that's actually underneath it. Everything from invoicing to, and you name it, anything that could be valuable can be containerized now and stored on an immutable public blockchain where it's verifiable and the transaction history is easy to trust because it's a decentralized verification process. So provenance and things that matter to the authenticity of luxury goods or exclusive goods or things like that, well, that's one thing. But certainty around whether, this batch of eggs is bad or not, all those kind of things can be NFT'd, and they can increase efficiencies across all levels of the supply chain and across all different kinds of verticals. So when we talk about NFTs, just think about them as containers, and what they represent as a possibility is the containerization of everything in the global economy, which right now that means it can be expanded and derivatized to levels exponentially higher than it currently is. So that means growth. At the same time, what they're not is they're not some silver bullet or they're not some like lottery ticket, right? And that's important to understand because certain things will appreciate in value. But that's not the use case that should be focused on. The use case that we should be focused on is how can we provide verifiable access to things by wrapping them in a container. Wrapping is a word you'll hear a lot of when you hear things about NFTs. Is like, I have a thing and I'm going to wrap it in an NFT. What that really means is I have a thing that's valuable to someone and I'm going to put an NFT around it so that I can trade and transact it more efficiently on a blockchain that records the provenance and the history of that transaction on its ledger balance in a way that's irrefutable and less fraud or no fraud. So what does that have to do with us? The deals that we're signing right now and the approach we're taking right now is mymetashop.com is your app store. It's basically your replicated website. It's an e-commerce store, and it sells hardware and software services. It sells MetaZero, starting October 31st, a phone focused on being certain that the only one listening is the one on the other line. It's a very feature-focused phone because privacy is the new luxury. It's no longer something you have. It is something you have to actually intentionally do. And there has to be an intentional design to the software or the technology and the hardware all the way through that even allows that to be possible. And that's the MetaZero. Right? So the MetaZero is a hardware software product people can buy from you in certain markets, not in everywhere, from the MyMetaShop, and you can earn rewards on that. The MetaPass is the first NFT wrapping up all of our experiences, all of our ticketed events, all of our content, all of that stuff into a MetaPass. It's super affordable. It has a 2-year lifespan that you can use both to give away on the lowest level to someone to get them their first NFT. So you can take the fear out of it. You can say, here's how you do it. You download this wallet. Well, I don't know how to do that. No problem. There's no risk here. I'm not spending any money yet. Let me show you. Download this wallet. And then I can send you your first NFT. And this NFT is going to have value to it. You're going to be able to now attend every event that happens inside of the Meta community with all these people. You can attend that virtually anywhere in the world. And you can also get access to all the content from the prior ones last year and moving forward. And by the way, this is an NFT and it's unique to you and you have it. And if you want to trade with someone, you can. It's your asset. You can choose what to do with it. Oh, wow, that's how easy that was. Or that's how difficult. Oh, now I get it. So it gives you that gateway. Now, ultimately, what then happens is now they're in the game. Now they can actually purchase from your MyMetaShop other NFTs that they want to participate in because you've taken the scare out of it. You've empowered them. You've given them something that has value. So I understand this token represents a container of things that are valuable in it that I can use. And great. What's next? Well, what's next is a curated drop that has the patents around the original NFT as part of it, as part of this global celebration by the founders and the co-inventors of blockchain. That's a unique asset. We're very privileged and honored to have signed that deal. There's a lot of gravity that comes with that deal because of who these gentlemen are. But Scott Stornett and Stuart Haber are doing a celebration of the 30th anniversary of their Genesis block, which predated Bitcoin by over 17 years, on October 13th. And on October 31st, the same day that your MetaShop goes live, you'll be able to also sell your first or give away your first NFTs to your customers as a way to get them into your customer grid with the MetaPass. And there's different upgrades they can buy to the MetaPass, all of which are commissionable, all of which will help you qualify for the alpha pool that you're trying to run at right now. And you can get, again, those details on the other video because we've talked about them at length. But What it also does is, depending on that level, it gets people access to, instead of just being a retail customer in the auctions that are coming over the next quarter for our curated NFTs, one of which is the Stornetta one. Another one is a major lifestyle brand. Another one is a new musical that'll be rolling out that was intended to go to Broadway. These are not JPEGs and made up crap, and nothing against CryptoKitties, but that was cool. But these are things that people know. They don't have to be nerds or crypto people to get it. And yet if they are, they'll appreciate it. This is lifestyle brand that is widely recognizable, plus many more behind it. There's a musical that is going to have major talent attached to it, and we'll be announcing that soon. We can't tell you who, but it is literally, we're talking about 500 #1 songs, is writing the original score with over 19 Grammys, a Tony Award-winning director, a New York Times best-selling book as the base of the thing, and it's going to sell itself. And so, unlike OpenSea or some of these other NFT marketplaces, which again, not picking at it, instead of it being a marketplace where there's just a bunch of everything, it's hard to find, it's noise, and you have to really kind of know what you're looking for. We're doing curated drops, and we're going to do so much pressure on these curated drops because of who they're with, that people are going to go, I want that. Where do I buy it? And the only place they're going to be able to buy it is mymetashop.com. The only people they can buy it from is someone like you, a DMP with a mymetashop.com address.
As people sort of wrap their mind around the way I interpret this is one of the most interesting things that's happening in technology right now is what you're talking about. People are curious, people are interested, people are participating. And unfortunately, a lot of times people are leading people the wrong way, so they don't know who to trust, they don't know where to go. But if you can provide them with a entry point where they can come in and they don't have to spend money, right? They don't have to go into this unknown and spend money and wonder. They can walk through from a friend in technology that helps them do that, where they can get their first or their access to this at no risk, nothing out of pocket. Now they're in, and then they are in the game, like you said, but now things that are familiar to them, like some of these brands like Muhammad Ali and Shaquille O'Neal, Elvis Presley, things that people already know, that once they start to understand, I want that, and the only place they can get it here. Now, I want to kind of shift gears a little bit because of music, and everyone understands music, and this helped me understand this and how the opportunity is so massive, because most of us love music, most of us have particular artists that we care about, that we love, and that we want to participate in the success. And when you describe this to me, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. No wonder why there's such a massive opportunity.
Just to be very clear, the first thing that you guys are going to have essentially is what you would know as a ticket. The difference is that ticket has value because that ticket allows you to get into an event. That ticket is wrapped in an NFT. So it's a non-fungible token version of the ticket. One you can give away that's got a $247 retail value, but you'll be able to give it away, especially during alpha, as a way to be gifting somebody something. It doesn't have less value. It has as much value as if they paid the $247 for it. Then there's upgrades to that that'll come with other benefits. And we can program these things in. And so it makes the ticket not only more portable, it also makes it something that is dynamic over time. And so that's one example. Now with music, again, what's the economy that's being enabled here? In 1999, many of us that are over the age of 40 remember the Napster moment, right? And really what that was we took physical stuff. We call them atoms in the physics world, right? Atoms and matter. We took CDs and we turned them into bits. We put them into MP3s and streaming. We digitized them. And when that happened, what was possible is now you could make it more available, right? You didn't have to send a physical thing somewhere for somebody to hear the song. It could now be downloaded from anywhere. Well, Napster comes up with a decentralized way to basically allow people to put their music up on the web, and people could download it for free. And it disrupted the entire music industry because their economics were based on unit sales. It was based on the sale of a physical unit, and all the royalties and all the infrastructure was based on that. So there was lawsuits and there was all that stuff. But what happened was the technology let a cat out of the bag that couldn't go back. And that industry has been suffering ever since, right? There's never been an advertisement sold that didn't have music in it. And yet advertising last year was a $700 billion industry ballpark, and music was just under 7.8 billion. And you go, well, how come? Because the licensing, the rights, all that stuff, that's fine. But they never recovered from that. The only thing that allowed them to recover was the fact that they had to give away everything for free. And then there was social media, and there was things that allowed them to do that, build platforms, but they weren't actually building a platform they owned. They were building a platform for YouTube. They were building a platform for Facebook. They were building a platform for Instagram. So really what they created was a new job to stay relevant with their fan base and grow more fans, but they didn't own any of those relationships. And a matter of fact, if they get deplatformed, they find out really quickly how little they own of those relationships. Doesn't mean their fans won't try and find them wherever they go next. It just means whatever they put into that from a time, capital, and money standpoint to optimize their feed, to pay for ads, to get to people there, they never get that back. They don't own anything. What they own is they own their IP. They own their music talent. They don't even own the music necessarily because they have labels and everybody else in between. But what do fans want? Fans want the music. Fans want the relationship with the artist. Well, in an NFT world, in a blockchain world, it disrupts a lot of the status quo, but it creates that. It creates a peer-to-peer direct relationship between fan and artist. With something like Meta, with something like My Meta Shop, it creates the opportunity not only for the artist to put their fans on a platform, a hardware and software platform when the Meta 1 comes out that is optimized for those peer-to-peer economies and for dominion over your data and for owning what's truly yours, whether you're small time or whether you're a megastar, but they can get paid on it. Apple never paid them on it. And if they did, they paid them a fee, 10 million, 5 million, 20 million, some kind of sponsorship fee, but they didn't pay them on the residual income of every Apple user. They didn't pay them on every device they ever bought after that. So it's somewhere somebody lost money. Either the brand overpaid for the sponsorship because it didn't convert enough customers, or they drastically underpaid. Think Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan got $100 million to leave YouTube and go to Spotify. And everybody blew their minds. They're like, wow, a podcast just got bought for $100 million. The next day, Spotify's stock went up 1.2 billion in market cap. Who got the deal? Joe Rogan got 100 million and a 4-year contract he can't get out of unless he wants to give it back. Spotify got 1.2 billion in 24 hours in market cap, right? So what we're talking about is putting fans in business with brands, bands in business with their fans, unreleased music, things like that, that they can NFT, that they can put different rules of space in, that they can get a royalty on, and that they can create the own rules. And over time, what you're going to see is 3 to 5 years from now, I'm firmly convinced what's going to happen is the index of what those royalties are is going to be by an artist, whether they're 15 today and they're going to be 25 in a couple of years, and they're the next Taylor Swift or Justin Bieber, or whether it's Taylor Swift going, you know what, I got 200 million followers. I'm tired of not owning them, and I'm not doing an album with anybody else anymore. My next release is going only out through My Meta Shop or something like it. And the minute that happens, it's game over. And that will happen. Our chance is to be the platform it happens on. If we build this thing right, we get enough million users on it. Because if we go out there and we say we got several million users, several 100,000 users that are ready to go promote stuff that they can be part of, where the artist wins and they can win too. Like, how hard do you think it's going to be to get musicians and artists? We might have artists and musicians already in the community. Matter of fact, that's how we got the Broadway deal. So when you really can understand what's possible here, we're talking about a new value equation. We're not talking about consumption going down. We're talking about consumption going up. We're just talking about a new model that is not the advertising industrial complex model of where we extract data from people so that we can manipulate them with algorithms to change their cognition, to manipulate them into buying stuff that they're already predisposed to buy and compound their bias further in a toxifying way, while at the same time, poor people are getting poorer, rich people are getting richer, and everyone else in between is not in control and doesn't have any choice.
That's where we come in, and we're able to change that for people. And although I know for most of you, if this is kind of the first time you're hearing this type of information, you know, I was like a deer in headlights. So somebody going, oh my God, this is a lot. But I think you can feel the essence of it, even if you don't understand the technology side of it. We inherently know that there's change that's drastically altering the way that we interact with all these different things. Banking, right? Products and services, communication, right? We know that, we see it. And the question always is, okay, how do we position ourselves appropriately where we can benefit from this change? Because, you know, I'm old enough to remember when, you know, the website started to become a thing. And I'm also, some of you are in that same space and some of you are younger and you don't remember that because you grew up in it. But you know, there was a time when people said websites was dumb. That's a fad. No one needs a website. Why would I need that?
I was selling them door to door in 1999. I got 6 months of straight no's. I got a Yellow Pages ad. I don't want one.
Websites?
I was selling door to door websites to small businesses in 1999. My first ever gig in Del Mar, California, and I got no's for 6 months straight. I ate rejection every day. It was a good experience, but nobody wanted them. They didn't need them. What do I need a website for? And we're talking about funny things, right? Realtors. I don't need a website. Got a yellow page ad, got a bench ad. I don't want a website.
Well,
Like
you look
realtors.
in hindsight, there were people, I remember, okay, I went to the Caymans the first time I was there with one of my mentors, Paul J. Meyer. And Paul had bought this, Paul was just he was a billionaire, unbelievable guy. And he built this house on Grand Cayman, 7 Mile Beach. And then he had sold the house and to a developer who gave him, I think, like $40 million for this house that he paid $7 million for. And then got them to build this massive, the best condo thing on Cayman. And he got the bottom floor. It was the biggest one. It was just extraordinary. It was the only elevator on the island. It was amazing. And the guy above him, right, there's only 2 things in the 6th floor thing. And the guy above him was a young guy. He was like 34, I think, back then. This is in 2005. And Paul said that he had made billions by sitting on domains like bankofamerica.com or all the universities. He bought all the universities. And that was all he did. And he made hundreds of millions of dollars just having domains and then parlayed that money into other things. But again, I say all that because it's understanding where the ball is moving and getting ahead of it. So if you understand where the technology is and what's going to be important in the future, you can make decisions now that will position yourself appropriately. You know,
I want to say 2 things to that point, because I think it reiterates what I've been trying to get across, which is everyone who's listening to this, especially because we're in the alpha phase, you're here, you got a track record. Most of you, I don't know, but most of you could probably sell broken glass in a bag if you needed to make, a meal happen for your family, right? But you're choosing ethically not to do that, but you're capable of it. So we have to kind of forget sometimes, like, we don't have to be that good, right? We just have to be in the right place at the right time. And we got to know that we are. And everything that we've been saying today is just telling you that, again, regardless of how good you are, don't get this twisted. Every person you know, including me, including you, every person you know is leaving their house at some point this weekend, and they are not leaving it without a device. And when they come home, there's devices in there. Some of you may have Ring doorbells, some of you have Alexas, and you don't own any of those devices. They own you. And if you can just resonate with that and realize, what if there was an option? What if I could leave tomorrow with a device I do own? What if I could come home to ones that I also could own down the road? I don't even have to throw them out. What if I just had a new operating system? I think I could get people interested in looking at that. What if I had ways to actually, when I bought stuff, because you don't own the Amazon movies you bought either, right? You have access if you rent them for 48 hours. You have access until they lose their rights, because Disney Plus stands up its own thing and pulls all their content back for however long. But you don't actually own it. You used to own a DVD. You used to own a tape. Now, if you scratched it or lost it, okay, can't use it anymore. But you used to actually own the thing. And we don't need to go back to a world where we own everything, but the access that we are buying should be portable. And that's the world that a new operating system and blockchain will help enable. That's the world we're moving out of and towards. Now, it's going to be a 3 to 5 year build. So again, the person who's sitting on top of Paul J. Meyer's place didn't build the websites. He just owned the real estate those websites were going to get built on. You don't have to be that smart if you're right and you're on time. You just have to be awake and understand where you're sitting in time. And right now, where you're sitting in time is a company that's built technology, that has technology that we're bringing to consumers, that has been working for governments and agencies for the last decade, that is encrypted and secure. And we're trying to create a UX and optimize that UX over time for a consumer market that doesn't know how to drive a Ferrari, but that just wants to go fast and know they're in control. And that's what the Meta Zero is. And then the Meta One will help them have, something that's more of a daily driver with the same speed and advantages of zero mode, the same certainty that they can go into that private, secure communications when it's relevant to them, for whatever that means, their family, their business, what have you. And that's the Meta One. But meanwhile, in parallel to that, there's this whole world of digital assets emerging, and there's going to be more than less consumption of digital assets than physical assets, because everything will be containerized, even if it's physical. And it'll be certified or authenticated by some form of NFT over the next 5 years. So buying things now and understanding how that works and being able to sell those things gives you income, gives you opportunity, gets you in front of the curve that's inevitably coming. And when these two worlds merge, post Meta One and beyond that, with developer communities and the next iOS and everybody building more solutions and dApps for this ecosystem than for the current ones, then it hits mass scale. And the question you have to ask yourself is, geez, how many people actually need to do this before I'm so rich I don't know what to do with myself? Because if you're here now, what happens when there's 10, 15, 20 million people in the community 3 to 5 years from now? And this isn't protein or lotions. Those things are great. This isn't even about all that. This is about just recognizing no one's leaving home without their devices today, and they don't own them. No one's coming back to watch stuff on digital tonight and stream, and they don't own them. And the relationships of the people that created that content don't own the relationship with the fan. Holy crap. What if there was a world where I could still do all those things? I owned myself and my fans were partners with me. It's not hard to extrapolate. Learn as you go. Just get in line and get in line early. Yeah. The leaderboard is, I'm looking at it right here. So I just want to let you guys know, I see, I appreciate it. And Visa, you're still killing it. 44 to date. So you're almost literally got the DMP qualification for 2 so far in the month of October for Visa. We're only 9 days in. My goodness. Jamal, 17. Josh Denne doing everything on the corporate side, on the revenue side, doing all this other stuff, and still got 15. So again, I know you hate to lose, bud, but you know you're doing a lot of other stuff.
I know we got the winners for the week is
Janos in Hungary as well with 16.
Congratulations. So, who else is there?
Yeah, so this week's contest looks like Visa with 26, Jamal with 17. Hell of a job, Jamal. You with 8, and then Janos with 5 so far this week.
Right, so I just had 8 for the week. Okay, so there's only 2 winners then, because you have to have a minimum of 12.
Yep.
So, Visas and Jamal, congratulations.
You're getting a meta zero. You're getting $1,000 gift.
And
One
so
of the first 100.
This is the second one for him, and congratulations on that, buddy. And Jamal, first one. Man, massive respect and love to you. Congratulations, sir. Look forward
Somebody better stop. Somebody better start recruiting, because otherwise Visa is going to get 50 of the first 100 at this rate. Hey, I appreciate y'all. I got to bounce. I'm running late, but I appreciate everybody. And thanks, Josh. I know you got a couple more things.
A little bit longer, guys.
I know you got a couple things you want to talk about, and it's important they stay on, because Meta Manager, all that stuff. I want to give you that time back. So, guys, everybody, we'll see you this week, and we'll be doing an AMA that'll come out through the channel. We'll do an AMA for all your people with me next week.
Oh, so next week, let's talk about that now. Next week, Ask Me Anything is an AMA. That's going to be Friday or Saturday?
We'll probably Friday. It'll be on Friday.
Okay, Friday, and
we'll schedule it, but it'll be on Friday, probably after the leadership one.
Okay, excellent. We'll put that in the Telegram channel, so just stay tuned. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.